Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Monday. It's February 6th. This will be our chart listing for the day. And you can see the day. Here's the day on the daily chart, and it really is just kind of a range day. We had a sell off and then kind of went in the range, although we closed at the high part of the range. The range is really across the lows of this bar, and then we closed higher. And it pretty much mirrors that on the just looks kind of like a neutral kind of day here on the chart. We did close down considerably from the previous day, so it's still a down day, but most of the selling came early on during the overnight, and then we just kind of chopped around the rest of the day, kind of in a range there. So you'll see it when we flip over to the other chart, but um, yeah, this market just every time this market sells off, it has a nice little rally. It seems like so. We got a couple of days. We were trading way down here. Of course, you can see we bounced right off that um, envelope band right there. Um, we're way overdue to come back to the midline, so I would expect we'd probably come back soon, but we'll see. We may rally, pull back, and test this. Um, we're still kind of fighting this support resistance line. You can see that we're kind of on both sides, so we'll see if that can hold as resistance to turn prices lower, or if we're going to turn higher again. We relieved quite a bit of the overbought. I still think we need to correct more than this, but doesn't mean we will. This market just doesn't seem to. The buying's been pretty strong since it came in here on this higher low. Way back, when was this? This was January the 19th. It's been relatively bullish ever since then. And we had some really 3 days of really strong bullishness last week. So we could see some more upside. This market it doesn't want to sell off. It wants to keep going higher. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, let's flip over to the 2000 tick intraday chart. Take a look at it, and we'll go through the trades, and we'll wrap this day up. I'm a little late getting this done, so it's going to be late getting posted. Um, and I apologize, but I got a lot of things going on, unfortunately, and it just could be helped today. But I'm gonna try to get through this relatively quickly. But let's flip over to that chart. Okay, here's a high level look at the 2000 tick chart. You can see we had this big sell off, corrected. It looked like we were going to try to make a measured move, but we made a new low. And unfortunately, a lot of times when you get that new low, the market rallies, and it really didn't rally today. It just kind of chopped sideways. So that, what does that mean? I don't know, to be honest. Um, could mean the market just taking a little resting point before it goes lower. It could be that the buying's too strong in here and we're going to rally some more. We'll just kind of have to see what the week brings. We'll see what tomorrow brings. That'll probably give us a better feel for where we're headed next tomorrow. But you can see we didn't make the measured move, which usually leads to a much bigger move in the other direction. And this is a pretty good little rally here. However, it couldn't sustain itself, and we we traded lower again. We did make a higher low than the previous time, and then we just kind of chopped around sideways after that. So um, let's zoom in. We'll go through the trades. There's not a lot of them today. There's a lot of this choppiness and stuff, and not a lot of trades today. But there's enough here that you could make your money for the day. But it's not a real big day as far as number of trades. But anyway, we were trending down, and we got an overshoot here, as you can see, which sometimes just leads to a reversal. So you got to be real careful getting short. You need a really good setup here. And notice that we get two legs down. There's actually, I didn't draw the trend line, but I think it's like so. And we get a close outside new low, and then it takes off. Um, I just traded this as a higher low here. Really, it should be below this bar. This one um, opened up below the EMA, or closed below the EMA. I'm sorry, and so I don't think it would be wise to go long there. But then this one rallied on up and closed and was a big bullish bar. So maybe you go higher there on that higher low. I went back and forth about whether to make it green, but I like this trade in real life. I mean, it pretty much confirms that trend line across there. This has moved just a tad. It should be more like that. And so I like that trade. Notice how many times we bounced. You really confirm the trend line here, and then you get two more confirmations, and it just keeps going higher. And this runs off into a big rally. So I like that trade. And of course, you got your move down. I think I talked about this one. You got a second entry long, but you got your break and new low. So I like going long there. That is a second entry too. This is basically a double top. So first entry, second entry, and then this is also this is a higher low, but it's just right off that key entry point. And again, we're below the EMA there, and it looks a little flat. So I'm a little leery of that one, but you may take this one as a higher low. And it turns out to be a pretty good trade. You could almost argue for that one to be green, but I liked it in real time. I mean, because it's right off that key entry point. And then we run up here, and we really get two legs up, a little bit more than two measured legs, and then we start working lower again. You'd think we were going to retest this low, even though we got an overshoot. But we never do, really. I don't think we ever make a new low. Did we actually get one over? Yeah, I guess we did get a new low. And then that's when it rallied pretty good before it ran out of steam up here along these highs. So anyway, this runs up. We start working lower. And you can see there's a first entry, second entry, big bearish bar right there. There's also a channel working lower here, and that's your first break, and it's a second entry short. You expect prices to try to make a new low, and we could be headed on down to retest this low. And so I like that one. It's also there's a new higher, so it's a first entry, second entry. So it's a failed second entry long and a second entry short. So I really like that setup. And then we're just kind of chopping along. I don't really see anything else here I like. This is just too choppy, and you're just swinging one way than the other. Then it's just hard to know what prices are going to do there, and you're usually better off just to sit tight. And then, of course, this trend starts down, but you never really get a good setup off of this either. There is a second entry short right there, but you're going short right into a double bottom, way away from the EMA. That's never a good idea. I wouldn't take that trade. And we actually drop him further than that, but there's still not a really good. There's actually another second entry here. Notice you go first entry, and then it turns back up. So when it breaks below here, it's a second entry. But when you get three matching bars with three matching lows right there on three different bars, I'm real leery about going short there. It works, but I just didn't like it. I mean, it's one you might argue. If it didn't have the three matching lows, maybe you take that trade. But technically right here, by the time you enter, that bar is more bullish. And you can clearly see it looks like congestion. So I'd probably skip that trade. You can't argue for it to be green. And of course, we get a break and a new low, and that also gives us a new low on this channel. We already looked at that. And then we bounce up out of there. Look at all that momentum. It tries to go short once, shoots up through, tries to go short twice. And so when it breaks above, let me zoom in here a little bit. When it breaks above this bar right here, that's a failure. And I like going with it. You wouldn't have got a runner on this one, unfortunately, because it does come back. Well, I take that back. Depending on how you play it, you probably wouldn't get a runner, but you might, depending if you gave it a lot of room. So then it comes back to the trend line again, but no setup. Another big move up, and then we're just working sideways. And I don't see anything here I like. There's a second entry there. That signal bar, it just really doesn't qualify in my opinion. You might argue it's a triple test too. I mean, it's one you might argue for green. I'd skip it. And then we come back. We get a first entry, second entry, and now we got a triple test and a second entry, and now look at it go. Big move. I mean, that was a pretty good move there. I think they trapped some shorts right there, trying to get short, and then you can see it runs or stops, and all of a sudden it sells off again. But that's a pretty nice bounce. Again, it's a second entry long. Notice the new high. First entry turns down again when it breaks above this bar right here. It's a second entry when it breaks higher there. And there's also 1, 2, 3 triple test. Pretty good move up. This one's tempting, but that's really sideways, and there's a little 2-bar matching low right there and some more stem down here off that bar. I'd be leery of going short there. It broke higher and turned down. You might trade that one on the engulfing bar, but I'd want to see that bar close. So, and notice how it gaps here. It closes on its low, then opens on its very high, and doesn't back up or anything, so there's no overlap, and it just goes straight down. I doubt you could get in that trade. It would have been hard to get your order in time. It moved really quick. We drop on down, then you come back. Notice first entry, drop down. You got 2 measured legs down, and the second entry fails right off the EMA. Possible trend line, very bearish bar. I like going short there. That turns out to be a pretty good move. And we drop on down. Comes back again here. It's just a first entry though, right in the middle of the range. I'd skip that. Drops down here, bounces off the low, but there's no break of this. There's no bullish bar or anything. That gives you your first break. Notice it does come back. I didn't mark this one because it makes a slightly lower low right there. But that is a second entry with a really good signal bar. But notice how it doesn't break above there. And so it's just kind of hanging around. It does kind of bounce on out of there on this next bar, but you can't enter on that. And just look at this at the hard right side of your chart. That doesn't really look like rejection. This bar should have broken higher and gone a little higher. It didn't. I'd skip that. Same thing here is a higher low, but look how sideways that is. And finally we come back and we get our first break, but we get a first entry, and then when it breaks higher right there, it's a second entry long, and you're looking for prices to make a new high. There's plenty of room. That's all you get's a scalp, and then we're running back down to the low again. Comes back and it tests it for the third time here. Pretty good signal bar, way away from the EMA. If it breaks higher there, it's probably worth trying to risk that to catch this move down here and get a ride out. I thought really maybe it would go all the way to the highs. It doesn't, but it's still a nice move. Probably would have had a bit of a runner there. And then we turn and come right back down. I think that's too congested to try to go short right there. It's a really bearish bar. But wait and see if you get a second entry. And technically you do get a second entry right there, but that's too congested. Then we bounce off the lows again twice, but no signal bar either time. And off it goes. There's just no setup there. Now you're too far away from the EMA and too close to the high. And you do get a close outside new high, and then you break higher and turn down. We've already seen that trade once. You could wait and go short here. Still plenty of room, but you might trade that on the engulfing bar since we've already seen it, and it's pretty much a repeat pattern. And you might get a runner on this one. Pretty good move down. And you actually get a first entry, second entry, but that's an inside bar. It's very neutral, so you can't take that second entry, and you see it fails pretty quickly. 2 legs up to a new high, and then it sells off again. Again, you get a new low here, so it's a first entry, second entry, but that signal bar is too bullish. Can't enter there. Drops on down. Now, you may be arguing we've bounced down here many times, so if you saw this, you could take this. I didn't mark it, but it should at least be green. It is a second entry too. Notice that new high. First entry, second entry. So it's a place where you may go long. I prefer to see a higher low here, or this be higher than the last couple of previous ones, and I believe it is a little higher than this one. So maybe you take that trade on the second entry. And this was the one I wanted to talk about too. I like this trade, to be honest with you. We've already got a new low, but it gives first entry, and then it turns up again, and then turns back down. So when it breaks above those 2-bar matching lows there, that's a second entry short. Um, the problem is you've got a doji, a bullish bar, and then a bearish bar. So it looks like congestion. And you got to be real careful, especially almost at 2:30 at our cutoff time. So for that reason, I did not mark that one, but it's another one you might argue for if you saw the second entry and you realize we're making lower highs and lower lows there. So it's a trade you may take, but it's not ideal, but there's reasons to like it. So I would just mark it as aggressive and leave it at that. But there it is. Not, like I said, not a lot of trades today. There's plenty here to you know, make your two trades or two or three trades and what you probably need to make. So, yeah, I've seen better days. I mean, this is a big range, and we got a little consistent here on the lows, late morning, early afternoon, but we still weren't real consistent at the highs. Notice how we're turning down at different places, and that's probably because it's in the middle of this range. It's probably, you know, it's just hard to know what prices are going to do in the middle of that range there. When they should have went higher here, then they didn't, and then tried to go higher, and then they went lower, and then you say, okay, well this time they probably will, and they didn't again, and come back. So it's hard to really judge that. You might get some longs out of here, but you're probably not going to get any shorts out of it. Um, anyway, the shorts. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but the shorts are not. You notice we're not getting highs at the same place. It's not consistent, but these lows are fairly consistent across here. So, and that's the difference. So, anyway, there it is. That's how I saw it. Again, it's just a range day, but I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm going to wrap it up. This is back with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.